got one for you.
What do you got?
Occam's Razor. You've ever heard of it?
Occam's Razor sounds like some slasher movie.
No, Occam's Razor. It's a basic scientific principle. And it says, all things being equal, the simplest explanation tends to be the right one.
Makes sense to me.
All right. So what's more likely? Thank you. An all-powerful, mysterious God created the universe and then decided not to give any proof of his existence. Or that he simply doesn't exist at all. And that we created him so we wouldn't have to feel so small and alone.
I don't know. I couldn't imagine living in a world where God didn't exist. I wouldn't want to.
How do you know you're not deluding yourself? I mean, for me, I'd need proof.
Proof. Did you love your father?
What?
Your dad, did you love him?
Yes, very much.
Prove it.
How do you know you're not deluding yourself?
Okay, so I'm basically making this video to make an announcement here with a little explanation, but before I get into that, what a crazy ironic scene that is from Contact. I used to think that was such a corny response that the Matthew McConaughey character comes up with. Did you love your father? Prove it. But when you think about it, it's like, okay, from an evolutionary Big Bang standpoint, how do you even explain love? Or family? Why there's a special bond between people in all sorts of ways. What is love, scientifically? Anyways, and then of course the kicker at the end is she meets the aliens who are disembodied superintelligences, right? And can appear as anything they want, and they appear as her dad. I mean, yikes. And not to mention the fact that Matthew McConaughey plays this role of this womanizing, he's now a religious bigwig of some kind. But it's Matthew McConaughey. So I guess that's how Sagan wanted to portray Christians in his book, turned movie. At best, you're a hypocritical sellout, and at worst, you're some murderous psychopath fundamentalist guy. Anyways. But basically the reason I wanted to sit down and throw something together here was because I got a notification 2 days ago now, Wednesday, about the recent video I made, the proxy wars and proxy wolves, which I thought turned out pretty well. And got a lot of good and interesting feedback from a lot of people and had a lot of interesting conversations with people afterwards because of it, so... But yeah, I got a notification for pending removal. So essentially somebody filed a claim saying that they manually detected something. So it wasn't like the YouTube algorithms found something. But long story short, they give you 7 days. Like, you got to take this down or we're going to give you a strike. So while I do appreciate the fact that they don't just give it to you right off the bat, which I've had happen in the past, actually. Then you have to try and go through the process of contacting the person and getting them to remove it. But in this case, they do recommend you trying to contact the person filing the complaint. But this is what's really weird. I'll show you guys a screenshot of this, actually. Because claim type just says audio-visual claim. And instead of a timestamp of like the particular, usually they'll show you the clip, right, of whether it's audio or visual. In the video, here just shows the whole video manually identified. So they don't say where, they don't say what it is. And copyright owner is Messages of Christ, whoever that is. And I did type that into YouTube. There's a channel, but it's like one I've never seen before, called Messages of Christ. And yeah, so the whole thing's pretty bizarre, I would say, at least new to me, to where it's, I don't know if this is just a troll or whatever, but kind of like, unless this person, because I don't have an email or anything to even contact them and, request them to remove it or discuss it or whatever. So I guess my options are you can leave it up and take the strike and they'll just take it down anyways, or I'd love to be able to just take this down and remove the clip in question and re-upload it. That'd be no problem, but I don't know what it is. So, and of course I didn't really use any actual audio and video clips other than like the White House Defense Secretary, speaking at the Pentagon, stuff like that. So I don't know if anyone could help me figure this out. But basically it's like, I guess I could just do the whole thing with different audio, music, and it's not music, it's something, I don't know what it is. So basically, if the video goes down, you know why, probably in the next few days, and then I'll have to see about what I'm going to do. And in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge deal. It was a kind of a longer video, so it's kind of annoying, and I'm kind of not shocked anymore, because it's always like all the issues I've ever had with like copyright related things or people, it's usually it's not like big corporations and stuff that care. It's always just like weird random stuff like this, weird random people. It's not something I'm getting upset over or anything like that. In fact, as I've been thinking about it, I've kind of been wondering if it's just more impetus to try and concentrate more on these sorts of topics, and specifically, I've been kicking around the whole idea of doing another full-length documentary, for quite a while, and then the main question being like, well, what, am I going to do it on the same sort of, it'd be easy to just make an ethereal 2 or something, but I don't really feel led to do that. And I guess what I've been feeling is just more drawn towards questions relating to being the church, being the body of Christ in this day and age, in the times that we live, and specifically also once you're encountering really massive deceptions and eye-opening truths about whether it's cosmology or just how the world really works, and essentially where it really, when people talk about the feeling isolated and feeling frustrated and alone and living as the remnant, what I would say is the real remnant. And that, of course, ties also into the whole topic of who really is Israel and what are the promises given to Israel, the inheritance, and going back to the Abrahamic covenant and everything that Jesus came and said he fulfilled. All these things that are interrelated. Just more about all that. But of course, the biggest challenge is when you're doing a longer thing, a longer piece or documentary or whatever, I think to try and kind of break it down and have that framework in terms of like, where do you begin, where do you end, what's the arc through it all, and then you go from there, But that's like the hardest part, I think, is to kind of decide on that. Because you can just like throw a big mishmash of clips together or talk for 2 hours, 10 hours, people do all the time. But to make something that has something sort of an intentionality to it, in a format, in a structure, that's kind of what I've been just waiting to see, how would you start with that? So as I've been thinking about that, and I was like already making this little announcement about that video, I would love to get your feedback and input on that, because, so many of you have been going through all this stuff and researching all this stuff, and then you kind of know, if you know my channel and my approach, well enough by now, it would be really helpful to get your guys' input and just kind of like, where do you think there's a real need? But that's what's on my heart, really. It's just that whole reality. As things get more and more real and dark and just crazy. And a lot of the problem is that, like, the whole idea of just relying on God alone to sustain you is something that modern Christians just honestly don't comprehend very much. Israel. Who is Israel? Who's the king of Israel? It's an important question. So anyways, I'm not going to spend too much time because I got to get this made. So just an unexpected announcement there, and Matthew McConaughey, man. Jeez Louise. It's so perfect. The phenomenon that is Matthew McConaughey. If you ever watch one of these Lincoln commercial compilations, they're hilarious. You'd swear it was satire, but it's not. All right, I'm going to stop before I keep talking about Matthew McConaughey all day.
Take the long way.